going to be a really meaty, juicy episode today about stress, how it shows up on your skin, how to calm it. I'm going to give you tangible tips as your licensed esthetician who is also oncology certified. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most overlooked truths in skincare. At least that's what I believe, which is stress, again, showing up on your skin more than almost anything else, more than genetics, more than product sensitivities, more than diet, unless you're like truly allergic to something. But before we get into all the tips, I want to take you back to the very first time stress personally wrecked my skin when I was in my early 20s. This was long before breakouts became part of the professional world that I live in now as an esthetician, because that chapter shaped my compassion, my mission, and my understanding of the emotional toll that skin struggles can take. Okay, so in my early 20s, I was a freelance makeup artist working on my first independent film. I was hired to be the hair and makeup person, and there were long days. There were things called splits, which are like you wake up in the middle of the night basically and start working. So there were very late nights, and honestly, I don't even remember what I was using in my face. Honestly, it could have been bar soap. I don't remember that. It could have been, because that's how much I was lacking in knowledge at the time. And there just was not a real skincare routine in sight. And then suddenly overnight, my skin like exploded. That's just the way I'm going to describe it, because it went from totally clear skin to having this, deep sort of hormonal, painful type of cyst. I didn't even know what they were called at the time, but these painful breakouts that sit underneath the skin, the ones that you feel before you see. And that is what led me to trying to figure out the cause later, because at the time I had discontinued my birth control pills because they were making me feel sick, but I didn't understand hormones yet. I didn't understand how lifestyle, stress, biology, all those things were stacking against me, so to speak. And then came the sentence that cut deep. Someone very close to me, I never name names, looked at me right in the face and said, "What happened to your skin? It used to be so clear." I remember where I was sitting when this person said this. I mean, it's like as if it happened yesterday, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't understand the breakouts either. And even though the comment wasn't meant to be hurtful or harsh, of course it stung. It's kind of like one of those whispers that we talked about when I told you the story about me covering up my legs for 10 years and that whole beauty sermon. But all the same, it stung. And this period was really just confusing for me. It was also embarrassing, and I was frustrated. It's one of those reasons I literally became an esthetician, because years later, a dear friend of mine gifted me my first real facial. And I think the combination of feeling cared for and being handed quality skincare samples for the first time was so transformative that it planted the seed for the work that I do today. And just little side note, I created this beauty ebook guide, whatever you want to call it. It's really just full of personal stories that led me to the conclusions that I have with me today. And I wanted to create something for you that may be resonating, maybe something that you would be able to read and go, you know what? I remember when something similar like that happened to me. And yeah, maybe this is a good sort of outlook. So I created that. It's totally free. I'll link in the description for you below. I want to fast forward really quick to my 40s. It really was a new chapter of life. I got separated out of a 15-year relationship when I was around 38, about to turn 39. So it was really in my 40s. I was rebuilding my life, running a new business, dealing with sort of this deep emotional stress, and suddenly my skin started reacting to it. Okay, that's when there were breakouts, irritation, things I didn't understand again, random inflammation, sensitivity where there had not been before. And that's when it finally clicked. I'm like, your skin listens to your life louder than it listens to your products. That, I believe, is a true statement. And that realization really shaped the glow back method that I created. It's a glow back recovery guide. That, and also when I first moved back to Texas after my divorce, I stayed with my very dear and best friend. And she, you may have heard me talk about it before, has had lupus for most of her life. And there are different everyone that has it is their symptoms are a little different. Hers, unfortunately, have always been really severe. There have been times when she's lost her hair. She has to be on the same medicine that chemo patients have to be on occasionally to manage pain. And I say all this because having someone that's so close to me deal with things that also affect the skin, she will break out into these really large body rashes occasionally when she's undergoing stress, which is what we're talking about. How stress shows up in her skin. That coupled with my own experiences, in the 20s versus the 40s, and sort of looking at those similarities, it really shaped the compassion that I carry into every client session I have these days, and also the way I treat my skin. So I wanted to create some type of, again, totally free guide to really help you if you are experiencing those rougher seasons of life. Maybe it's just a little isolated season, but maybe it is a product of something larger like an autoimmune disease or something that you've been experiencing for a long time. So that is, again, something else that shaped this episode. So today I want to help you understand exactly what to do when stress shows up on your skin, because there are ways to support and recover from it gently. And I'll also link below the Glow Back Recovery Method Guide if you're experiencing a flare or know someone who is, or maybe someone who is going to have to start treatment. As an oncology certified esthetician, I tried to create something that is very digestible, something that would really help calm irritated skin, whether you're prepping for some type of treatment or you're trying to recover after experiencing some medications and treatments. The recovery guide, that is what it is meant for. So let's talk about the less is more reset, okay, along the same notes, because again, stress shows up on your skin, I believe, more than anything else. So when your skin is inflamed or breaking out, you don't want to pile on a bunch more products, right? Maybe you skip the scrub. Maybe you don't exfoliate. Maybe you reduce the amount of times that you exfoliate, right? Maybe you do a gentle cleanser. I always recommend a gentle cleanser no matter what. Even if you do 2 cleanses, like the double cleanse at night because you wear a lot of makeup, I still recommend doing one, to remove the makeup. Maybe you do use a micellar water, or maybe use an exfoliating cleanser, but I always recommend a gentle one regardless, because you don't want to strip the skin of its natural oils. And especially as you start to get older, you lose the moisture that your body normally creates. So an example, you lose the hyaluronic acid, you lose the oil that your body normally produces. You start to lose collagen at a more rapid rate. All of these things like elastin, all these things start to break down. So we really want to keep that barrier intact. So a gentle cleanser can help us do that. A calming moisturizer can help us do that. A soothing oil or barrier repair balm can help us really trap in that moisture and prevent something called transepidermal water loss, aka TOOL. And also SPF outside, maybe that's all you need is something that's moisturizing with SPF. If you are a minimalist or you don't have time for it, if you want cognitive ease, then that is definitely something I would recommend. Now, why does this work? Okay, research shows that reducing barrier disruption calms inflammation and speeds up recovery. So I'm going to link some studies below for you in the description as well, if that's something you're interested in. Now, blue light, LED blue light, is a gentle research-backed acne ally. Now, this can reduce acne-causing bacteria, and that's personally why I like to use it on clients without irritation. So sometimes when your skin is going through it, we really want something that we can use, but maybe topicals, aren't always the solution. And so this is great for stressed, compromised, or perhaps oncology sensitive skin types. And by the way, this is not medical advice. These are just my recommendations based on my experience and being licensed again as an oncology certified esthetician. You always want to speak to your medical professional if you're going through treatment or having some type of serious skin issue that, requires more attention than just an over-the-counter product. So, and that would be like maybe your skin, maybe whatever you've done, it's not calming down. Just gonna give you some examples. It continues to be red. Maybe if it's blistering, if it's itching, if anything that last beyond a day or two that is irritating your skin, it might warrant seeing that professional medical person for very specific attention. Okay. So you might do an LED treatment like 3 to 5 times a week, maybe 10 minutes. Every device is going to have different requirements based on, say, the nanometers, basically the strength and the coverage that it offers you. And then, of course, it's how long you use it and the consistency that you use it with. So those things are very important. Overuse, more is not more, regardless of what you're using. So, just follow the instructions is what I would say and use it for the recommended time frame. And also, if you have melasma, just a little side note, or if you're melasma prone, this is one of those things where you do want to consider the LED strength that you're using, the how many nanometers it has, the coverage, how long you're using it, etc. Because there are some studies with indications that, if you use a certain type of LED long enough, and if it's over a certain strength, it may actually contribute to your melasma issues. So just something to keep in mind. I don't want to scare you, just something to keep in mind. Also, salicylic acid, it is very widely used. It's a great classic for a reason. It's oil soluble, meaning it can really get inside the pore and clear congestion. But what about for stress skin? I would say just use it sparingly. I would say yes, but use it sparingly. Maybe 1 to 3 times a week max. It does depend on your skin condition, what's going on with it, how sensitive you are. You could also switch to a mild cleanser with it inside of it. I've used that before and that I've been very successful with it. So there's so many different types of salicylic. And what I mean by types, I mean forms of application, right? So you can get a spot treatment. You can get in a serum form, in a cream form. You can use a cleanser with it. You can get it where it's mixed in with other ingredients and serums. So it's like a leave-on tonic. There are toners that contain salicylic. So you definitely don't want to overdo it. There are even peels where you can go in. I'm sure there's some over the counter. And then of course there's ones like that I will do on people in a more controlled environment, up to 20% salicylic acid for skin that again is having issues. But the more sensitive, the more reactive your skin is, I would say that's an indication that it's giving you a message that you need to sort of just tone it down with the amount of products that you're using as a whole. And that way you can give your skin a chance to repair itself as far as your skin barrier goes. Because if your skin barrier is compromised, then it doesn't really matter what you're doing. It's going to react to really anything. You could probably put the most calming agent on your skin, like something with aloe. And if your skin barrier is compromised, it may sting. So just something to bear in mind. But do love salicylic acid if you just have a tendency to have those occasional breakouts, or if you're acne prone, if you're super oily, it can be a really great addition to your beauty routine. Now, what about pimple patches? Pimple patches, I would say they're not magic, but they are totally useful, and I'll explain why. Now, marketing will claim that pimple patches can do so much. And at the end of the day, I really believe that the most valuable asset that a pimple patch has is that you keep your hands off of it, whatever it is that's inflamed. And you will eliminate the risk also of spreading the bacteria, because when we mess at it with it, when we pick at it, we are increasing inflammation, and also you can actually spread the infection underneath your skin as well as on top of the skin. So by doing that, you might notice that you have a pimple, and then all of a sudden there's a couple of pimples around that area. So you just want to be really careful. And for that, I think pimple patches can be helpful, but they do not treat things, right? So they're not going to treat deep cyst, and they're not a replacement for real acne treatment. You just want to really break that picking cycle, because that is huge. And also when you place that pimple patch over whatever is trying to heal, it's going to lock in the moisture and it's going to help it heal faster. So that's another benefit. So what about prescription helpers, right? They should always be under a doctor's care. obviously, should go without saying, you don't want to borrow a friend's prescription or go somewhere shady to get a prescription, because you really don't know what you're going to get. And you could be, what is good for your friend Jane is not always going to be good for you. So there are seasons when topical care just isn't enough, like over the counter care, and that's okay. There are commonly used options, and I'm going to go through those with you today that you can talk to your dermatologist about if you think one of these might be right for you. And one that I feel is not talked about at all, or definitely not enough, is the fact that there are some dermatologists that will consider microdosing with Accutane. I know I had a loved one several years ago take Accutane, and at that time, I was not a seasoned beauty professional. I was pretty new to the game, and I was so brokenhearted that I didn't have the experience to help this person yet the way that I wanted to. So much of it has to do with the experience. So now, knowing what I know and knowing that microdosing is even a thing, I actually really like the idea. If you feel like you have tried everything and absolutely nothing has worked, I think it's worth talking to your dermatologist about, because these are administered or prescribed in lower doses with fewer side effects, and it can really be great for adult acne. So just something to consider. Also, there is a drug called spironolactone, and that is a go-to for hormonally driven breakouts. So like if you get those classic breakouts around the chin, jawlines, or maybe some cystic flare-ups like what I talked to you about today. I had no, I don't even know if this was a thing back then. This was so many years ago when I was dealing with the onset of hormonal breakouts after, I quit taking birth control, because again, I didn't know anything about hormones. But nowadays, this is a more commonly prescribed drug. And so if you feel like your breakouts are more hormonally driven, this definitely could be something to talk to your dermatologist about. Now, what about tretinoin? This is an incredible tool for acne and aging. It was created for acne, and later we learned all the benefits of it for aging, but too harsh for inflamed skin. So you want to pause when your barrier is really compromised. I do think you should make sure your skin barrier is nice and hydrated and feels good, and then integrate the tretinoin. Talk to your dermatologist. I'm sure they will only prescribe it to you if they feel it's a good fit. But let's say you have maybe been taking it on and off for a period of time. Like sometimes you feel like you've needed it, I would say, and sometimes you don't. I would say just sort of focus on your skin barrier first if your skin is really feeling like irritated. And then once it calms down, use the tretinoin to really maintain your results. And also, just a little side note, tretinoin is something, aka retin-A, is something that works and has a progressive effect on the skin. So if you start it and stop it, or only use it once or twice a week, you're not going to have ideal results. You may not have really any good results at all from doing that. So that may be a way, if you've used it in the past and it's worked, to just sort of avoid having these issues moving forward. If you feel like, ooh, it's a little too dry and a little too harsh, you may consider mixing a little bit of it in with your moisturizer, or doing one of these things called, sandwiching, where you put a little bit of it on and then you put a little bit of moisturizer on top, and that may just do the trick. You could also consider doing it like every other night, and I think that would also be okay, but the point is you do need to do it with some amount of consistency to really see results. Okay. Now, one of the things I do feel like it's worth mentioning, I'm not telling you that I think this is a good solution ongoingly or repeatedly, but if you have a special occasion, okay, like a wedding, a photo shoot, a big event, and you just have this massive cyst that will not calm down, or something that just seems irregularly large, I guess, you know what I'm saying? We've all had an occasion where it's just, oh, it's so big and painful. Like, where did this come from? There are steroid shots for big painful cysts. And if you go and get one, they would inject it right into the cyst. And the next day, I would say it would be, it could be 50%, 70% gone. It may even be almost gone by the next day. So something to consider, just be aware of. I'm just giving you information so that you can be armed with information and make the best decisions for yourself. So, last but not least, keep your hands, I should say, off the face. We already talked about the picking, increases bacteria, heat, inflammation, risk of pigmentation, risk of scarring, all the things. I don't need to sit here and elaborate on it. You know you shouldn't do it. So, if you got to go get one of the pimple patches to keep your hands off, do what you got to do. And if you tend to pick, you're not alone. You're human, but know the facts, know the risk, and do what you can to prevent having more issues. So, want to remind you to grab my free glow back recovery guide, because I give you, gentle products that I've done a lot of research on that I believe can help you if you need gentle recovery tips during flare up times. These are also products that I believe are oncology safe to help calm the skin. And there's a lot of barrier support inside of these products and ingredients that will help you instead of hurt you. And so this is sort of like a calm before repair method, and it's my gift to you to help heal your skin with the gentleness and intention that you deserve. Okay, and here's a glow note that I want to leave you with today, because your skin is not dramatic. It's not trying to be dramatic. It is not misbehaving. Okay, it is simply communicating. So we have to listen to the messages. And you don't have to figure out everything overnight. You just have to respond with compassion, consistency, and care, the way you would if a friend came to you. Okay? Be your own friend. And as always, the more you know, the more you glow, my friend. Okay, ciao for now.